Being that 2025 has been dubbed as the year of the agents, quote unquote, I wanted to take a look at the OpenAI Agents SDK, which is a new open source release from OpenAI pertaining to kind of a workflow and such for agentic use cases. So we're going to jump right into it right now and just take a brief overview of the GitHub repository, which is at first glance quite simple, but there are a few cool things about this that I want to really touch upon. So here we're met with the OpenAI Agents SDK on GitHub, and we can see this was a really recent release, as the oldest thing here is from like 10 hours ago. So pretty cool that new things are constantly coming out, of course. And it is, as we see, a lightweight yet powerful framework for building multi-agent workflows. So you might think, okay, well, there's a bunch of other agentic things out there, and you would be correct in saying that. However, something that is kind of cool about this, just on first glance, is that there is no vendor lock-in here. And what I mean by that is if we scroll down right here, we can see that they mention the SDK being compatible with any model providers that support the OpenAI chat completions API format. So if we actually go ahead and click on that, it will bring us to a documentation page where if we scroll down, we will see that they do actually mention upfront using other LLM providers, and the OpenAI API format is really widely utilized. So really what this means is that there is a lot of kind of background option here in terms of using other services or local services, which are obviously my kind of area of interest mainly. If we go back to the repository and just scroll down, we can see it is quite simple to actually go ahead and get started with this by just downloading it, setting it up, and then running some very simple examples. There are some things here that will require an OpenAI API key to kind of make sense of or demonstrate, and that is really kind of the tracing right here, where essentially this will show us the actual functions of the agents as we interact with them. So I do actually have that open here in the OpenAI dashboard, and we can essentially see that this is the traces section where, okay, the customer service, and then it sent it to the seat booking agent, and then the seat booking agent sent it back to the triage agent. So really, without needing to worry too much about those specific agents, the traces are just kind of a visual representation of the actual agentic workflow and which agents are being called by which other agents, etc. Now, this is probably something that would be more interesting for like development purposes and things like that, but being able to see kind of the workflow from when a user is interacting with the agents is definitely kind of interesting. So aside from that, we can see there is also a section down here for development. And for today's video, I really am just going to do a very simple and light touch on this. So I will just be using my OpenAI API key to demonstrate one or two of the examples. We're now just going to go ahead and follow along with the very quick getting started guide right here, and then I will go and run some of the examples. As we can see, in the examples directory here, there are a few different examples of things you can test. There is a basic one, customer service, handoffs, research bot, and tools. So I'll probably just try the customer service one, where basically if we actually look at the script here, it's like a flight seat booking thing or something like that. So this is essentially emulating a kind of customer service representative for airline related queries and things like that. But just as a quick example, it'll be interesting enough, I suppose, to see in action. And then we will also see it reflected here in the traces dashboard. So from that, we really are just going to go ahead and begin by cloning this repository onto our local machine, which we can do by just hitting the green code button and copying the URL right there and typing git clone into the terminal along with the URL we copied. And this will go ahead and download this onto our local machine. The next step from here is simply to copy this and change directory into that. So CD and then paste that directory, which we are now in. Once that's done, we are basically just going to set up a virtual environment, so all of our dependencies and such will be isolated from having any kind of mismatches with anything else on our system. And now that that's set up, our final thing, which is quite quick, is to just go ahead and do pip install OpenAI agents. And mine is cached, so it will go a bit quicker because I have played with this prior to filming the video, of course. So once that's done, it is really as simple as navigating to the examples directory, and then we will be able to actually go ahead and run and see one of those examples. I am now just going to head to that examples directory. I need to see what the directory structure looks like first so I can actually get there. And it is just typing cd examples. Oh, don't omit the S as I did. There we go. And in here, we will see that each example has its own folder, so we'll have to navigate into that folder as well. I do want to try the customer service one, so I will just go into that directory, and from there should just be a single Python script that we can then run to actually initiate this agent demonstration. Now, I would like to note that for today's example, as I had previously stated, I think in the introduction, I am going to be using an OpenAI API key, as I want to just kind of test this simply, and being that there can be other providers used and such, I feel it is kind of worth just seeing it working in a quicker, easier, more efficient way, so that we know what to expect if we actually go ahead and use this with a different provider, which I would imagine a lot of folks would be interested in doing. So with that, what we need to do is just export our API key as an environment variable in this terminal session. So in order to do that, it is really quite simple, and they do mention that partially right here, where you just need to set the OpenAI API key as an environment variable. So in order to do that, we are going to do not copy. I can't like talk and use the computer at the same time very well. We are going to type export and then OpenAI API key and then equals, and then you will paste in your OpenAI API key right here. Now, I am okay with actually showing mine on camera, because I will then just go ahead and kind of burn it afterwards, meaning just delete it so it can't be used. But make sure you always keep your keys isolated. These new keys, I don't know, for folks who may play with these, the new keys are extremely long. I don't know, I generated a new one and it was way longer than the old keys. So I don't know, that's just kind of like a peanut gallery comment. So once the API key has been set as an environment variable, we can just go ahead and run the customer service agent test by typing python main.py, which will go ahead and initiate a conversation with this airline-related customer service representative agentic team, if you will. I looked through some of the code and it just referenced like baggage questions or seat questions. So I'll just ask like, how heavy can my bags be? And then we'll see what our response is. And that will initiate the conversation here. And we can see that what happens here is the triage agent has handed off our request to the FAQ agent. And the FAQ agent is actually calling a tool here to answer our question, which is interesting. And the tool call output is basically just telling me the answer to my question about my bag size, like query, if you will. So this is actually kind of interesting and brings me into something I just think is cool about this, where if we go into the actual code, just to look at the script for real quick, we won't get too deep into it, but we will just basically see that in here, it is interesting because we do see that our FAQ lookup tool is right here, and basically it just sees there's the word bag in the question, and then it will return with what we were allowed to do. Or if there's seats in the question, then it will return like some generic seating related answers and things of that sort. But something I find interesting here is the actual kind of prompt for the FAQ agent, which we can see right here. And it just says, identify the question, use the FAQ lookup tool, do not rely on your own knowledge. And something like that would just be to kind of prevent hallucinations. Because obviously imagine in a deployment environment, if you had a customer asking about the bag and the agent didn't know and just made up like, you can have like an 800-pound baggage, it would obviously just kind of be not good. And then if you cannot answer the question, transfer back to the triage agent, and then it just gives it the tool that it can call, which is the FAQ lookup tool right here. And that just brings me into something that I find interesting about this, is it's so heavily Python based, which can be kind of nice because it's not, Python is a very kind of approachable and easy, I won't say easy, but like it's a nice language to work with. So if we actually go into the documentation right here, we can see there's a bunch of cool stuff here. However, I don't know. Okay, there we go. So I had to expand my browser so I could see the nav bar on the left side here. Something I found to be kind of interesting is if we go into the tools section right here, there is also something listed called the computer tool, which I definitely am going to be interested in playing with using a local LLM, obviously. But this is a tool available that lets an LLM control a computer. Now, there are a bunch of things out there now that actually perform these tasks, whether it be Omni Parser or UI PyTars from ByteDance or something like that. But having something else here that we can kind of use to build off to actually go ahead and control a computer is awesome and always welcome for folks, I suppose, like myself, who like to play with agents that can control computers and do different things. So this is just kind of cool and something I wanted to make note of right here, as I did obviously click on the wrong thing and I just realized there when I stopped talking and started reading. But we can see that there is like a computer tool and things like that. The computer implementation, which describes the environment and dimensions of the computer, as well as the computer actions like click, screenshot, etc. So that is just kind of cool and something I probably definitely want to play with. So again, this was just going to be a super quick look at this and not something very in-depth, but basically I want to just share this because it is not locked into using OpenAI's API. So this can be expanded upon and built into your own workflow using your own preferred set of tools in terms of like the backend, I suppose. But it was just interesting, and anything open source is cool in my opinion, and I like to cover these things. Finally, as we can see here, I had kind of one conversation. So the triage agent would definitely have shown a trace to the FAQ agent right here. So perhaps if I go ahead and refresh this real quick, we can see, okay, the triage agent sent to the FAQ agent and then so forth. So it is just kind of cool that it shows you the actual time and things like that. And obviously this is something that is working right now because of the OpenAI API key, but there could be other implementations of that. They do actually mention external destinations, including a bunch of other things right here. So I did just want to share this real quick, and I am definitely going to play with this in terms of getting it working with a local AI, and then perhaps playing with that computer tool, because I find that very interesting. So quick video on an open source agentic solution from OpenAI, which is kind of cool and not perhaps super expected. So that's going to wrap it up. If you have any suggestions on what to actually do with this, like just to build something, even as a functional demonstration for fun, I'd love to hear them, and I'm totally open to working from suggestions. So thanks for watching.